It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice right here, right now. My name is Michael Evans, and I will be your host today. Glad to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to spend my morning with you. If you're catching us live on our website, I'm glad to see you out there. There's a whole bunch of you out there this morning, including some folks up in Calgary, which that's kind of a first for, at least that I've caught. Draper, not quite sure where that is. Sioux Falls, I see Haymarket out there. Fort Walton Beach, Huntington. Let's see, there's a whole bunch of them out there. Tulsa, Oklahoma, that's nice to see you out there, Tulsa. Branson, Missouri. I see Seattle out there. I see Chicago out there. So thank you very much for joining with us live there. There's a bunch of others out there. If I skipped your city, I apologize, but if I read them all, we'd be here until, well, we'd burn up at least the first couple minutes. For those of you that are listening on Patriot FB, good morning, and thank you very much for joining with us. And for those of you that are listening on our Spreaker podcasting service, glad to have you on board. If you have a chance to, and you could hit the like button on that Spreaker podcast service, we're trying to get to a certain threshold of likes on there because it will enable us to get onto iHeartRadio and hopefully expand our audience that way. So do so if you wouldn't mind. We'd appreciate it. We're going to talk about 4 different things this morning, and one of the things that I think a lot of folks are kind of realizing, but don't really know how to voice or put the right words together for, is the inflation that we're feeling right now. Irrespective of what the government's telling us, we are seeing a significant level of inflation in our country. And the reason we don't see it is because they've manipulated the way in which they do the mathematical equation to give you the inflation number. They're telling us inflation is at a controllable 4% and all that nonsense. That's malarkey. The truth is, inflation in our nation is running at 11% annually increased. And it has been since 2009. So, and you don't need me to tell you, you may not know the actual percentages or number or how you look at it, but you don't need me to tell you because all you got to do is go into the store. All you got to do is look at your gas bill. All you got to do is look at your electric bill. All you have to do is look at your natural gas bill or your propane bill, the bill to drive to work every day. All you have to do is go in and buy a pair of blue jeans, right? So this topic this morning, or this segment this morning, is going to be focused on inflation as the new normal and prepare to defend yourselves. In other words, if inflation is coming, and it is, if it's here, and it is, if it's going to get worse, and it will, what do you do? Well, first thing you do is you make some intelligent, articulated decisions about what you're going to do to defend yourself from that. So I'm not one of these guys that gets into buy gold and all that nonsense. You know I don't take any kind of sponsorships for all of that kind of thing. We're going to talk about some practical things that you can do, that you can use. All right? Second issue is Connecticut gun confiscation and a brand new bill working its way through the the state of Kansas, where they are actually, and you're not going to believe this, folks, they're going to make it a felony if you accuse a police officer of police brutality and he's found innocent. But here's the rub. He's only investigated by his own colleagues. And once that investigation is done, it's final. Nobody else can ever review it. What? Yeah. Just wait. I mean, beyond stunning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the people in Kansas ought to be flipping out. There's over a dozen representatives in the Kansas House who have approved this thing or co-signed it, co-sponsored it, whatever. I cannot believe it. I mean, in the day, in a time when we're seeing police brutality and police stateism on the rise, when the DHS is funneling billions of dollars into local police departments, gearing them up for a national war against our own citizens, when these testosterone and roid-filled and fueled rages are going on everywhere in our streets, when police are consistently smacking the cameras out of people's hands, taking them from them, being caught on camera, abusing citizens, and openly in the public, Kansas is going to say, well, you know, if Joe gets caught beating the snot out of you, we're going to let his buddy Harry investigate him. And after Harry's done finding him innocent of the charge, no one, including a higher state police, a court, or anybody else, will be able to review the case. Really? What kind of a KGB Stasi-like thinking is that? All right. In case you hadn't picked it up, I'm a little incensed about this law. All right. Topic 3. NSA's mystic has been exposed by Snowden. Folks, this is the one that we've been talking about, but the governments keep saying, oh, we're not doing that. This is the one where they can actually monitor, track, and record the audio for every telephone call in an entire nation, and they're doing it in multiple countries right now. They won't say which ones. To make things worse, it rolls on a buffer. So basically, after the buffer gets full, it deletes the oldest and, you know, keeps recording. It gives them up to 30 days to go back and pick up that conversation, save the entire thing or the portions that they want to take out of context and use against you, and then store it away in your personal file so that they can beat you to death with it later. Guys, I got to say, if you don't recognize at this stage in the game that capturing every phone call in multiple countries, and including our own, if you believe their assertions that they're not doing it here, you're crazy. Recording them in a 30-day buffer. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? I rest my case. Our fourth topic. The MSM, mainstream media, has now officially become the Ministry of Propaganda. We're going to talk about the fact that for over 123 days, ABC's Nightline skipped discussing the concept and whole issue of Obamacare completely. Ladies and gentlemen, how can you go for 4 months without mentioning something that is controlling 1/6 of our economy, $2.7 trillion worth of the national budget, where literally millions upon millions of Americans have lost their insurance? Millions more are trying to get it and can't. And ABC's Nightline doesn't want to talk about it. You know what they talked about? Bootleg butt injections. I ain't kidding you. These people actually go down and have their butts enlarged with these injections. And that's what they're gossiping about on Nightline. Is it any wonder that the vast majority of Americans have no clue how rapidly our republic is disappearing and dissipating right in front of our face, like smoke? The truth is that the Ministry of Propaganda in this country, and that is all of the major news networks, Fox included, are busy redirecting our interest elsewhere, anywhere but at the crisis at hand. And crisis it is. We are in a constitutional crisis with a president who feels he's above the law, with a Congress who does not represent the people, and with a judiciary who has absolutely abdicated any responsibility they have as a member of the tripartite that is supposed to operate as watchdogs one against the other. Boy. Okay, let's get into our first topic before time gets away from us. Venezuela. You all know what Venezuela is. South American nation, recently under the control of Chavez, who died of cancer. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. and taken over by Maduro, his handpicked successor. Inflation is so bad there, they can't find flour, milk, and diapers. Now, you might be able to live without bread. You may be able to live without milk. You're going to have to sweeten your coffee with honey or something. But you can't live without diapers, folks. At least not in this modern world. And at least not in my house. I mean, I'm telling you. That ain't happening. I tell you what. The problem here is that we have a world, a planet, which is starting to see the results of massive debt buildup that everyone anticipated, everyone pointed to, and not a single member of the leadership of these countries, and our own included, by the way, has taken a measure to slow down, stop, correct, nothing. I mean, you all heard the phrase when Obama was reelected in 2012. We not only, hit the iceberg with the Titanic, but in 2012 we backed the Titanic up, and then we rammed it again on purpose, right? The same can be said for every one of these fiscal conservatives who, for all intents and purposes, declare themselves to be one thing and then turn around and do the exact opposite. I mean, what rocket scientistic moron in the House thought it was a good idea to give Barack insane Obama a blank check until 2015? March of 2015. We don't even know what the Fed and the Treasury are borrowing. You know why? Because they are refusing to turn these reports out. And the truth is, we're seeing inflation all over the place. In Cuba, they have 57% inflation, largely because their only trading partner is Venezuela. And Venezuela, you can't find cooking oil. You can't find butter, flour, diapers, milk. This one woman says, I spent all last week hunting for diapers everywhere. The situation is really tough for basic goods. Now, their crime is going through the roof because when inflation strikes, what happens? People say, I still have to have the basic necessities that I had to have before. I still need basic food to feed my family. And so these people are descending into a criminal class because they're stealing just to get the basics. The level of crime and rioting that's going on, and a lot of this is student-led demonstrations and things like that. But here's the simple end of it. We are seeing the same thing right here in the United States. And those who are unaware of it or unwilling to look at it have to recognize that we as a nation are devaluing our currency just as rapidly as they are. The only difference is that our GDP and our total economic picture is bigger, so it's taking longer for us. It's like, it's like the difference between when a child gets sick and an adult gets sick. Child gets sick, and within hours, that infection has just raced through their body because they don't have the antibodies to fight back. In this case, and an adult takes longer. In this case, our economy is just able to absorb this inflation better. One, because we are more economically flexible. Two, because we haven't been depressed for quite as long as Venezuela was under the leadership of Chavez. And then thirdly, our economy is bigger as an overall image, and so therefore it takes longer for the dent to actually, impact us. But our nation is devaluing our currency, and they're doing it rapidly. Make no mistake about this, folks. All you have to do is recognize that at inflation rates of 11% per year, we are in big trouble. Forget the numbers that the government is giving you. It's all a lie. What they did is they took fuel and food out of the mathematical equation. Those are the two highest costs in the average American household. fuel, and we're talking about fuel to get to work, fuel to heat your home, fuel to cool your home, and food itself. I think the government estimate is that for a family of 3, on average, even under EBT and welfare, they give you an allotment of, I think it's $600 per month for a family of 3. And at these rates, at the price of food today, that's not very much. I mean, go in and look at what ground beef cost. Right now, it's at an all-time high, by the way, but you're talking about, $3.75 a pound, all the way up to $5 and $7 a pound for chopped meat. You're kidding, right? No, I'm not. Go look at chicken, which, by the way, has now outpaced beef as the number 1 protein in the diet of Americans. You know why? Because American families can't afford beef. We are devaluing our currency, and we are doing it rapidly. The next currency in the United States of America is going to be food, ammo, medical supplies, and fuel sources. Forget what Bill O'Reilly tells you. Forget what these sycophants on Communist News Network, MSLSD, ABC, CBS, the Communist Broadcasting System. Forget what these people are telling you. The truth is this. Look around you, be situationally aware, and recognize what is happening around your nation. You have an opportunity now to prepare and to build up a storehouse. And if you want to take a biblical example of that, like Joseph in Egypt, who told the Pharaoh, there are 7 lean years coming, but we've got 7 years of plenty right before us. Let us take the 7 years and add to our storehouses for when the 7 lean years came or come. And they did. You have an opportunity now, and the things that you should be buying are basic goods that you can, 1, keep for a long time, and 2, use in the event that I'm completely wrong, just so that you can say, I hedged my bet. And at the same point in time, things that will have practical value as barter and trade, because the next currency is not going to be cash, it's not going to be gold and silver, it might be silver coin, but ultimately, the next item for currency is going to be what you can barter for what somebody else has that you want. And everything else is propaganda. They're not telling you about it, and they don't want you to know about it because they don't want you to panic. Because your panicking will accelerate the process, and they're not quite fully prepared yet, and they're certainly not prepared to have to dodge the pitchforks and the axes and the torches that are going to come their way when this whole thing comes down. Do not fool yourself into thinking this nation is not going to be hammered with an economic disaster. It will. The question is not if, it's when. So, here's what I recommend. You have an opportunity to buy bulk food. Do so. Dry goods. We're not talking about and canned goods and things like that. If you know how to can. If you don't, doesn't matter. Go out and buy cans. And we're not talking about freeze-dried food and stuff like that. I mean, there's certainly a role for that to play in your life. But it shouldn't be your sole source of food because you're going to get really sick of dehydrated eggs and bacon at some point. But having rice and beans and grains and flour and things like that put away and stored up is not a bad thing for you to do. Additionally, canned goods that are high in protein, beans, eggs, if you can buy powdered eggs. There are a lot of things that you can put away. Fish, tuna, salmon, mackerel. Mackerel's very, very cheap. Tastes like garbage. I don't like it personally. That's just me. But a lot of people do. And you can buy one of these big mackerel cans. We're talking about the size that's like a dog food can, right? You can get a can of mackerel for, 60, 89 cents. I mean, it's a big can. You may not like it, but it will keep you alive. And if you mix it with some other stuff, you won't have to taste it. It's awful. I don't like it personally. But I do love tuna and I love salmon. Now, salmon's very expensive, but it's really high in protein. Any of those types of things that you can store away and put away for the long run, those are all great ideas. Make sure that you are putting that stuff away in bulk if you can. In the meantime, if you know how to can, and you can can vegetables that you can grow in your garden and things like that, all that's great. If you can, there are good positive foods that you can eat now, including that which you can grow in your garden. You can also obtain food that will keep you healthy today before all of this comes down. And if you're going to can meat, then I would strongly encourage you to make sure that you're canning the right kind of meat. And when I say that, you need 100% organic beef if you're going to do beef. That's the most common. And what I would suggest that you do is there's a couple of places where you can get some. One is there's a couple of websites I'll give you the name of. One is heritagehills.com. The Heritage Hills. That's a friend of mine. His name is Dan Collins. It's theheritagehills.com. He has natural grass-fed beef, as does a number of other people. And by the way, some of these places will ship to you, right? So there's another website called Spring Creek Beef. Spring Creek Beef. I recently built a website for that woman. She has an excellent 100% all-organic, grass-fed and finished. No hormones, no grain, no antibiotics, none of that. This is, this is beef like it was 100 years ago. Do yourself a favor, and if you're going to can meat, then can that, right? And the truth is, at the current prices that you're paying in the local stores, you're not going to pay that much more for the better quality of the organic. The other thing that you can do is you can put away pastas, and you can put away things that are going to be high in carbohydrates and give you energy as when needed. Don't forget to put away things like sugar and honey, and don't forget to put away flour and things like that, because I got to tell you, this day of going to the store and buying what you want in a box and bringing it home and pulling it out frozen and, throwing it in the microwave or the oven is over at some point. And so you better learn how to prepare some foods that you need, that you're going to utilize, to keep yourselves and your family alive. Let me tell you about the idea of ammunition medical supplies. And we've got about a minute left, so I'm going to get cut off here. But do not ignore the issue of medical supplies. And I'm talking about just the basic antibiotics, allergy pills, any kind of prescriptions that you're on. Make sure you go to your doctor. I don't care how you finagle it. If you have to, get a second doctor. Get prescriptions that you are reliant upon. Those of you who are on diabetic prescriptions and stuff like that, you got to make sure that you got some of that kind of thing stored up and socked away for yourselves. Because if you don't, you're going to be sorry. Eyeglasses and prescriptions like that. Don't allow yourself to be caught with one pair of glasses, because one, they're going to break at some point, and two, I don't know. I mean, you have to use some common sense. But at the same point in time, what I'm telling you to do, none of this, and I'm going to finish this when we come back. Let me take a break here real quick, because this is a hard break. I don't have a choice on it. You're listening to America's Voice Now. You can find us at americasvoicenow.org, and you can email me at mike@americasvoicenow.org. Hang on one second. We'll be right back, and I'll finish this, and then we'll get into our next topic, which is Connecticut gun confiscation and the new bill in the Kansas House to turn it into a police state like you won't believe. Hold on.